Orlando, Florida. You're now listening to the OZone Podcast, the voice of Orlando Magic fans. Join us every week for a unique fan perspective on all of the latest Magic news and updates. The show starts now.
Welcome back to another episode of the OZone Podcast, brought to you by DraftKings and now part of the Basketball Podcast Network. We're your hosts, Al, myself, Anthony, and today is Friday, July 23rd, which means we're exactly 6 days away from the NBA draft. What's up, Al?
What's going on, man?
What is up, Al? You ready?
I'm excited. I cannot believe we're only 1 week away from the draft. It feels surreal to me. You
got the good feelings. You got the good vibes. How are you feeling leading up to less than a week, man? We were stressing out, not too long ago that we were 2 months away. How are we going to get by? 1 month away. How are we going to get by? And we're literally less than a week.
I remember us counting down for the lottery, hey, 4 weeks to the lottery, 3 weeks to the lottery. And here we are, man. Draft is 1 week away. Free agency is 2 weeks away. Now all the fun starts for us. I know this is the time of the year that we kind of live for this, the trade deadline, and of course the games itself, but nothing more fun than the draft and free agency period.
Yeah, and a lot has happened since the last time we had our episode. So there it's not fully official yet. But Nate Tibbetts, we're going to talk a little bit about Nate a little bit later. We're going to talk some Jonathan Kuminga, who just recently practiced or had his workout with the Orlando Magic. And then we're going to break down some more draft. But before we get into it, it's the season is finally over. The Milwaukee Bucks are your NBA champion. So my question to you, Al, is, does this mean anything for smaller market teams? This finals was a little different. We got the Phoenix Suns going against the Bucks. The Bucks ended up winning. You have, Giannis, who was drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks, and the fact that they won it, like he actually did it with the Bucks. Does that mean anything to you as a fan from, a small market Orlando Magic?
It definitely does. I mean, I think it was a win for all of us small market teams. The Magic, you think about Memphis, Milwaukee, Indiana, those teams that, again, you always think about small market, no free agents going to go there. And not for nothing, man, when Milwaukee really did it the right way. They drafted Giannis, a guy that nobody expected to be the player that he's become. They developed the entire team, really. I mean, Middleton, a guy that nobody really thought of, was a G Leaguer, a guy that was picked in the second round. And look at him. He was hitting game-winning shots in the NBA Finals. And then they gave up the entire house to get a guy like Jrue Holiday and be that piece that they needed to make it all work and take it to the next level. And it paid off. A lot of us doubted, what if that trade doesn't work out, they gave up the entire future. Now they have a ring. It makes it all worth it. So I think, again, you have to give credit to them. They did it the right way. And, man, I kept telling you this the whole week, but I just wanted Giannis to win it. I kept rooting for the guy. The injury, surviving that scare, and then the way that he performed in the finals. I mean, yesterday from the free throw line, he all of a sudden became Stephen Curry. He couldn't miss.
Wow.
So you got to feel right. I mean, it was a book-ending story for the Milwaukee Bucks, and congrats to the fans. But what about you? What do you think about the finals, and what do you think that means for small market teams?
I thought this was a really fun finals. There was a lot of talk early on in the playoffs from other players around the league that weren't in the playoffs, saying that this might be one of the most boringest playoffs in recent NBA history. And I thought it was extremely entertaining. You talk about Giannis being drafted by Milwaukee, playing the last 8 years with Chris Middleton. They end up trading Eric Bledsoe and whoever else for, Jrue Holiday, and they made their team a lot better to be able to put themselves in this position. But you take a look at Phoenix, and they kind of did the exact same thing. DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker, they bring on CP3. I really was rooting more. As much as I think Giannis is a great guy and I love his story and everything about Milwaukee, I was rooting for Monty Williams. Just him as a guy. That dude's gone through so much, losing his wife to the car accident, and hearing his. If you ever heard his eulogy that he did for his wife at the funeral, where he forgave the individual who caused the car accident, and ultimately ended up his wife passing away. It's heartfelt, man, and he was someone that I was really really rooting for. I felt as if he needed that badly. And hearing his press conference like afterwards was heartbreaking. But I think all in all, it's a great day for small market teams. And it's really because of the fact that these two teams were in the finals. And then it was what Giannis said immediately after, during his press conference, where he said, it would have been easy to go somewhere else and go win a championship with somebody else. He could have went to a super team. It would have been easier to do that way, but he wanted to do it the hard way, and he ended up doing it the hard way. And I think that speaks volumes. And it kind of puts more weight to this championship, in my opinion, compared to, and you may not agree because I know you're a little West Coast Golden State Warriors fan. But the fact that he didn't go join, anybody else, he did it right at home with the team that drafted him. And I think that it speaks volumes, and it adds more weight in the fact that, man, it makes me feel better that I won this championship, but the fact that I did it at home with the team that drafted me makes it just that much better.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me 100% of Stephen Curry's first ring with the Warriors, before KD joined them. You can say whatever you want about the Warriors, man, but the story is very similar. It's a team that hadn't won in so many years. They hadn't made the playoffs, I think, only once in like 40 years. And then Stephen and Clay and this crew kind of becomes what they've become. And they win that ring in 2015, which nobody expected. And then they became what they became. But
I agree.
I argue this with everybody. You can talk to me about the whole KD joining them being kind of an extreme thing, and it became a super team. True, but they did it right too, man. They drafted those guys, developed them, acquired a guy in Iguodala who became a Finals MVP. That's not what people thought he was back then. And yeah, a free agent wanted to go there to play with that team because of how fun they were. That's not illegal. You built that team and demanded that attention from free agents like Kevin Durant. So I agree. Once he joined, yeah, it became too easy. But the way they did it, it reminds me a lot of what Milwaukee's doing. They drafted guys, developed them, and got them to a point where Milwaukee next season is going to be a destination for ring chasers. You may see guys like Blake Griffin going there, guys like, I don't know, seasoned veterans signing for the minimum because they may want to go and chase a ring now in Milwaukee. So that's what that creates. And that's when Dwight was here. That's how, when they traded for Vince, guys like Jason Williams, guys like Matt Barnes came here. And that's the reason why, because they saw a chance to win. But one thing that really caught my attention in this series is the amount of attention from fans watching on TV, the ratings. People kept saying, oh, LeBron's not in the finals. The Knicks are not in the finals. Nobody cares. Guess what? The NBA pulled it off.
People cared.
So
yeah,
this tells you don't need those big market teams in there. I get it. People want to see them, especially the media. But fans like you and me, we don't care. We love basketball. We're going to watch whoever's playing.
Yeah, and it makes you also think about, I wonder how John Hammond felt. You had to believe that he was rooting endlessly for Giannis. If you don't know, I'm sure everyone knows it. There's a story about it almost like once every 6 months. But John Hammond was a general manager that ended up selecting Giannis with the 15th pick. He also played a major role, or not a major role. He ended up sending Brandon Jennings over to Detroit for Chris Middleton, Brandon Knight, and some other guy that I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. But he made those moves to be able to give Milwaukee, their two major pieces. So you had to imagine that John Hammond was feeling really, really good yesterday, just kind of seeing how, the core that he created really just kind of flourished through, after 8 years, finally being able to get it done.
Yeah. I mean, as a Magic fan, you got to hope that that's what's happening here in Orlando right now. We're desperate. We want to see the team win. We've seen some success because, yes, we made the playoffs back-to-back years. But we hope with this rebuild, the pieces that we're acquiring, we all see the potential in these guys that we're acquiring. We see what they're trying to build. Now, if he just clicks, if guys like Mo Bamba become what they are expected to become, Chuma becomes the player that we think he is, RJ Hampton, who grew a few inches already, and that's a huge plus for us. Cole Anthony, like if all these things work out for us, we could be looking at a Magic team with a similar story. Like, hey, they were nothing, and these guys came in and drafted all these guys, acquired all these pieces, and look at them now. So here's hoping that that's what's happening here for the Magic.
And I made a comment yesterday that, half of the people tended to disagree with it, but I'm gonna say it again anyways. That in my opinion, Jonathan Isaac is our Giannis. And when I say that, I don't mean that Jonathan Isaac is as skillful as Giannis. I don't say that. I don't mean that by saying, Giannis and Jonathan Isaac, they're anywhere near the same level or whatever case may be. I do mean that by when I say that I believe that Isaac, if he's able to maintain health, I believe that he is the anchor of our team. And I feel like we are able to go as far as he's willing to take us, or he's able to take us. And I think that in order for this team to be successful, we are able to do that with Jonathan Isaac leading the way. And the fact that he was drafted by Orlando, the fact that, he's now one of the most veteran players on our roster. I see a lot of similarities that really stand out to me. And I still have hopes that he can definitely be, that player for us one day in the future. Not saying that it's now, I'm not saying that's next season, but eventually you have hope.
I mean, one of the things that I thought about when we drafted JI is that mold that JI has, the length, the wingspan, the athleticism, the good defensive skills, then just became, let's make this guy stronger. Let's build that body now to be an NBA body. And we're seeing it now. I mean, we saw glimpses of it in the bubble, but man, he looked amazing in those few games that he played in the bubble. So yeah, now that we don't have Vooch in town, we don't have AG, we don't have Fournier, you're basically saying to yourself, JI, you're that guy that we're going to go to and take, 15, 20 shots a game. What would that look like? Those stats.
We saw a glimpse of that. Like we saw a glimpse of Jonathan Isaac being super aggressive offensively. And we're not saying that, he shot amazing, but he was aggressive. He was looking for his own shot. And I think that, it's something to look forward to in the near future, because now we're really going to need that, like badly.
Yeah. I mean, you look at his stats next season, and I think most improved is definitely in the conversation for JI, because again, if he's going to take 15 shots a night, let's call it just that, and draw some fouls, which he can do, I can easily see him averaging 20 points a game. Again, he's going to be the main focus in our offense. He's going to be the go-to guy. He's that face of the franchise right now. So logically, that's what that means on the court. We're going to depend on him to be that guy. And if that's the case, man, those stats are going to look nice for him. That's for sure.
Yeah, but enough about Milwaukee. Congratulations to them for winning their first championship in 50 years. If you saw, I'm sure everyone saw the amount of fans that were outside of their arena. You really hope as a Magic fan that eventually, the city can really rally around the Orlando Magic, and one day kind of flood downtown the exact same way. But in other news, so the Orlando Magic are expected to hire former Portland Trailblazers assistant coach Nate Tibbetts to Jamal Murray's coaching staff. What are your thoughts on this move? We've kind of tried to give out projections of who we would like the Orlando Magic to go after. We threw out names like Stotts, and this is the associate head coach for Stotts from the Blazers. What are your thoughts on Nate Tibbetts?
It's interesting. I don't know if it means that Stotts is completely out of the conversation, given the fact that, again, he has some history with Mosley, now with Tibbetts as well. So what does that all mean? But taking Stotts out of the equation, Tibbetts is a guy that, again, is highly regarded in the NBA as an assistant coach. Again, the associate head coach for Stotts in Portland, good experience. And it's known to be another guy that can develop players. That's what he's known for. And I think, again, in Orlando, you're building a young team right now. You want guys like this in your team. So again, similar to Mosley a few weeks back, I'm being honest, I don't know much about him, but based on what I've read, it's a guy that can develop guys really, really well. So I think it fits. It fits what we're doing. It fits the new era of Magic basketball. I just hope, again, that's not like the big name hire that we're going to make. I hope there's more to come and a little more experience. I really hope we get somebody with head coaching experience to add to our bench. We should be finding that out pretty soon. But yeah, that's my basic thoughts on the situation. I know he's already working with the Magic. I know today Matt Lloyd mentioned in the Orlando Magic pod squad that Tibbetts has been working with some players already. So while it's not official yet, he kind of threw it out there. So I guess that makes it official. But what about you? What are your thoughts on Tibbetts and what he brings to the team?
I like it. I think that the first thing that stands out to me was, the fact that him and Mosley do have a history together. They ended up coaching. They were on the same coaching staff for the Cavaliers from 2011 to 2013. So the fact that they have some type of connection already makes me feel good, because I was a little worried with Mosley being the first time head coach that he wouldn't have a full decision based on who he wanted on his coaching staff. I don't know why I felt that way, but that was a fear. So the fact that, he was really able to pick his guy, I think was great. This is another coach that comes from the player development background, which, he was really close in the past for the Memphis Grizzlies job a couple years back. And there was a lot of players, a lot of teams that were raving about, him being able to also connect with players. Kyrie Irving is a player that really gives a lot of credit to Tibbetts for being able to develop him. He credits him saying that he wouldn't be the player that he is today if it wasn't for Tibbetts. He is credited a lot for the development of also Dame and CJ. Could Dame and CJ still be an amazing player without Tibbetts? Maybe. Could Kyrie? Maybe. But he still played a intricate role in being able to develop those players. So I think it's great. The fact that he's already in Orlando and already working out some of the players, Mosley had the same energy. He was barely on the job and he's already on the court, on the floor, working out players. And I think stuff like that is important. You want people that are willing to, roll up their sleeves and get in there and work with the guys. And I think that when it comes to developing young players, they need that. They look for that. They don't want to be yelled at from the sidelines. They don't want some, old geezer in there and telling them to do this, because back in the day, when I was no, these are people that are able to go on there and show you exactly what it is. They may not be NBA players, they may not be former NBA players, but this is someone that has college experience. This is someone that has international experience. This is someone that knows the game of basketball. And I think that is really going to translate well with the younger players.
Yeah, I like the fact that, again, he's young, like you mentioned right now, someone who knows the game, has played the game, has been, a college player, so he knows the game. And I think that's really, really important, again, for these young guys. Because like you mentioned, you can have a guy there that's 65 years old, teaching them things about the past and how basketball was played years ago. This young guys, unfortunately, I don't think they'll listen to that. It won't help them in any way. I think they need guys that can relate to them, that are young enough to get on the court with them and work with them. And I think that's what's going to really get through them. So exciting. I think that part of it's definitely exciting.
Yeah, and you mentioned the pod squad, so it was great that Matt Lloyd was on there, because we got to hear get a little glimpse into the world of the front office a little bit. And what was great is that there was speculations this past couple of weeks that RJ Hampton grew to 6'7". He ended up posting something on the story saying that he's 6'7" now. But we didn't get confirmation. So Matt Lloyd was able to confirm that he did grow a couple inches, grew a little bit taller. He didn't say exactly how tall he was now, but it was good to hear that we got that confirmation. He also said that Markelle Fultz is no longer wearing a knee brace, which I think is amazing. That injury that he had was a really, really big scare, and the fact that we're at the point where he's now wearing that knee brace, he's able to walk fine, I think is a great sign, for this upcoming season. What were some of your takeaways from the Matt Lloyd interview?
Yeah, it was really insightful as always, talking about the draft process, where they're really at as a team right now. And pretty much one thing that I took out from it, they said they had a workout to do today, one more on Friday, and then 6 days pretty much before the draft, where they're going to come together as a team and pretty much finalize things, see where they're at, see what they've gathered from these workouts, and then also be ready in the event that another player wants to come and work out for the Magic. Maybe one that had said no initially, and now maybe they want to. So a lot going on behind the scenes. But the biggest takeaway, like you mentioned, the RJ Hampton news and Markelle Fultz already now wearing a knee brace. For RJ Hampton, what that means to me is that he can now play that 3 position without any issues. He's tall enough, fast enough, athletic enough. He's a small forward if we need him to be. And I think that's what we wanted, because at 6'4", you're pretty much limiting him to the 2 position. He can play some 3, but undersized. this makes him legitimately a wing player now, 1 through 3. So that's really, really exciting news for the Magic.
Yeah, and Jeff Woolman has said before that he envisions him playing that 3 position. The fact that he's a little bit taller, like you said, it is going to make it a lot easier. It was fun because we also saw highlights from him. It was him and Dwayne Bacon that played in the Ace League in Orlando, just Pro-Am league that they were in, and it was neat. We were able to see kind of the little bit of the height difference that we see now. But he also had a crazy highlight where he threw a inbounds playing from half court alley-oop to I don't know if it was to tie the game or to win the game, but it's a cool highlight that happened this weekend that really stood out to everyone.
Yeah, he also hit at the end of the fourth quarter. He hit the 3-pointer to send it to overtime, and that was a leaning 3-pointer. So again, shooting those mechanics that he's been working on. That's another thing that Matt Lloyd mentioned too. By the way, he's been seeing RJ Hampton shoot the ball in practice workouts, and he's looking really, really good. So another great sign. Not only has he grown, but that shot is coming together as we expected to. So that could be huge for the Magic as well.
Yeah, and he Matt Lloyd also hinted in thinking that there may be some trades happening in this NBA draft. There may be a lot of noise and a little chaos. A little chaos would be great for the NBA draft. It would be great for teams who are drafting 5 and 8.
I think so too. I think that we all want a little bit of chaos. I mean, we're going to the draft party, and I think that we would love to find out there where we're sitting. Hey, the Magic made this move. Whatever the move is, it's either we moved up or acquired someone out of left field that we don't know about. But he also hinted that Jeff and John are making calls. They're starting that process of finding where teams are at, what they're looking for. So one really good example he gave is, think of the trade deadline. All those trades came together smoothly. Vooch first, then Gordon, then Fournier. That wasn't just a day off. Those are trades that he's been talking to his teams about for weeks.
For a while.
He putting them together. What makes sense? Well, once we pull this trigger, what is the next one going to be? So again, while we're working out prospects, while we're doing all these things, it doesn't mean that we're just drafting a guy at 5 and 8 and 30 and that's it. If the offer comes along that they like, they'll move, Terrence Ross. They'll move a few picks if needed to move up or to acquire a player they like. So I hope we see some chaos that night. And again, that we can find that out while we're at Amway with some fans in the stands. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, so the Magic also had Jonathan Kuminga come in, and we had his workout. We saw pictures of Alperen Sengun, who was in Winter Park, kind of hanging out a little bit. What were your thoughts from the post interview? The post workout interview they made him available to the media with Jonathan Kuminga.
Kid has he has faith in his game. He believes in what he has.
Super confident, right?
He's confident. And you want to see that. He said, he can become, or he can be, a franchise player. And he said, I should be a top 5 pick. And I think that's what you want to hear from a guy like him. Like, hey, you need to believe in yourself first before you go out there and do it. And as a Magic team, man, we need a franchise player. We need a guy that can go out there, be that guy, be in the All-Star game for a few years. So I was impressed with him. I mean, I think that we know what he is at this point. And I think for the most part, many of us Magic fans want him with that 5th pick. That's kind of our target. He said all the right things. So if you ask me, I think he did his job correctly, at least with the media.
Yeah, he said that he had a really good workout. His interview was really impressive. I was really impressed by it because he was cocky, but he was like passive also. It was great to watch. If you haven't watched it, it's a really, really good interview to watch. He says, I'm not sure. He says he saw himself as a franchise player. He also says, I know for sure that I'm a top 5 pick, but I'm not worried about that. So he's not worried about where he lands. He knows what he's worth. And then he also spent about 2 hours with Coach Mosley, which I thought was great. So the fact that he's already spent time with the head coach is a great sign.
Think about this though, man. Like, we forget about this, but Kuminga was supposed to be the number 1 pick in his draft class. I know he relisted, and that's why he's in this draft class. But that tells you everything you need to know. Like, this kid has talent. I get it. He's a raw prospect. But that's normal, right? Not every prospect that comes in the draft is going to be NBA ready. Like Cade maybe, or Jalen Green maybe. It's okay if it takes a year for them to kind of develop or 2. But I mean, don't forget that. Like, this kid has a ton of potential. So I don't know, man. Again, the more I see his tape, the more I hear about him, I'm more sold on that fifth pick being him. But then again, as we'll find out here shortly, watching the mock drafts, experts think differently. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I think it was Philip Rosman Wright from Orlando Magic Daily who had asked him, does he see his age? Does he reflect himself as being young, or kind of bringing out the fact that he's probably one of the youngest players in the draft? And he responded by saying, he doesn't see himself like that. He sees himself as really mature, and sees himself as someone that can really hold his own. Someone else had asked him who would be more emotional, him or his parents, and he said neither. And we're going to accept. We're going to live in the moment. We're going to enjoy it, and we're going to get to work. We're going to get to work right away. So I thought that was great.
Yeah. I think he did a great job in the interview. That's for sure.
Now, great. We ended up working out Kuminga. We got to get to know him a little bit with this interview. But they are saying that league sources say that the Magic are high on Scotty Barnes with the 5th pick. Just a few moments, we're going to kind of go over the different mock drafts. But are you buying or selling that? Do you really believe that the Magic are that high on Scotty Barnes with the 5th pick that they'll pass on Jonathan Kuminga?
I don't believe it personally. I think that it could be smokescreen. It could be the Magic kind of saying, "Hey, we're gonna take him. We're gonna take him." And it could just be something where they're trying to get a team to either trade up with them and they can flip that pick. I'm not sure, but I don't believe it, man. I think that if the Magic made that move, I'll understand it why they're doing it. Again, Barnes is a really good prospect, but based on our team needs, you got to go somehow, some way into some offense. You got to get a guy that has some potential to score the ball and average, 50 to 20 points a night. And to me, that's Kuminga. Barnes, as good as he's going to be, I can't see him scoring 20 points a night anytime soon in the NBA, if ever. Again, I see him being the Draymond Green type, a guy that can be really, really fun to watch on defense. He's going to be emotional, but he's not going to bring you that offensive side of things. And the Magic need someone that can do that. Maybe not now, but at some point in the near future.
If this is his agent that's kind of like pushing the narrative out, like this dude deserves agent of the year, because literally just about every single platform that we've seen at one point or another has listed Scotty Barnes at the 5.
That's right.
And I've seen him as high as 3rd. So between like 3rd and 6th. And somehow the fan base is not having that whatsoever. There's a very, very small number that is saying that they would take him that high, which kind of begs the question, what if, because there's also talks that Jonathan Kuminga may be falling. How would you like a Scotty Barnes 5 and Jonathan Kuminga 8 scenario?
We talked about this yesterday a little bit on Twitter. It was a little debate going on.
Jonathan Wasserman from Bleacher Report in his latest mock draft has Barnes and Kuminga heading to Orlando.
I mean, that gives you 2 really, really solid forwards, 2 guys that, again, are projected to be 5 and 6 in the draft. Every single mock draft you see, for the most part, has them one after each other. So you get 2 really, really solid players. I personally wouldn't be a fan of that move. I just think that you got J.I., you got Chuma, you would have one of them too, Barnes or Kuminga. Those are 3 solid guys that need a lot of minutes. So how do you make 4 of those guys work next season right away and get them enough time to develop and play right away? I don't see that happening. I've always said it all along. I want the team to go for offense. So Kuminga maybe, and then, or Barnes, whichever you decide to do with the 5th. But that 8th pick's got to be more of a 3-point shooter, or it's got to be somebody who can score the ball. Bouknight, Moody, someone like that. I mean, I don't know. That's just my perspective on it. Yes, you would have 2 great guys, but how do you make it work right away?
I like Bouknight. I like Moses Moody. Do I think that the Magic need to go after one of them with one of our draft picks? Absolutely. But I think that it'd be really difficult for us not to take Kuminga and Barnes scenario serious if that landed on our lap. You have 2 bullets in the chamber that could potentially be, elite level players. You really don't know. And I think that when it comes to acquiring talent, because you brought up a really good point, what are we going to do with so many forwards? In my opinion, we can't worry about that right now. We have to worry about the fit later. Our job right now, the front office job right now, is to be able to acquire as much talent as possible. And I think that based on where we're at, because we didn't get the first pick, we didn't get the second, the third, the fourth, it is what it is. We're at 5 and 8. If they land on your lap and they are available, I just find it really, really, really difficult for us to be able to say, nah, let's not do that. Let's go get some shooters, which is what we should do.
Yeah,
I would agree with you. It's what we should do, but it would just be really, really hard for me personally to pass on both Barnes and Kuminga.
The only way I would be okay with that is if you as a GM, as a coach, know that, hey, Kuminga can play the 3 and Okiki's spending all summer developing small forward skills so that he can be a small forward 100% next season. Because we know already J.I. tried the whole playing the 3 thing with AG, and that didn't really work out too much. Yeah. In my mind, J.I. is a 4. So if you say to myself, hey, Barnes is going to be a 4 behind J.I. next season, and you got Okiki and Kuminga controlling the 3, I'm cool with that. That makes sense. But if you're saying to me, all these dudes are better off playing the 4, now we'll go back to the days of having J.I. and AG together, fighting for minutes and knowing that the fit is really their 4s playing the 3 or whatever it may be. So you got to be sure of that, because otherwise then we have a ton of guys in our roster that need minutes, need development, but yet we have a bunch of dudes fighting for minutes that are not going to get the experience they need to be those stars that we hope they become.
But that's also why versatility is so important. Yeah, Jonathan Isaac, it's his best place to put him is at 4. He can't play 3 to 5. Chuma Kiki can't play 3 and 4. Jonathan Kuminga can't play 3 and 4. Scotty Barnes can play 1 through 5.
Yep.
So the fact that they're able to do a lot of different things and they're not just stuck at one solid position. I think that when you talk about fit, it may allow for that to kind of transition a lot easier than people are thinking. But again, if that ends up happening, it's not a bad outcome for it. When we're comparing kind of how our reaction was for the NBA lottery, compared to then finding out that we end up getting, Kuminga and Barnes, it's not a bad outcome at all.
No, not at all. I mean, no matter what you do, if you do get Kuminga or Barnes at the 5th, and then you got a guy like Moody or Bouknight at the 8, or this scenario, again, it's better than what we expected for sure.
Yeah. So now just kind of going through the different mock drafts that we've been keeping an eye on. The Athletic has the Orlando Magic selecting Barnes and Alperen Sengun. Am I saying that right? I have no idea if I'm saying his name right.
I'm gonna say you are, but I'm not sure.
There you go. There you go. Appreciate you, Al. Sports Illustrated has Barnes and Keon Johnson. Bleacher Report, we had mentioned already that it's Barnes and Kuminga. The Ringer has us getting Barnes and Davion Mitchell. I don't understand why Davion Mitchell. I don't get that at all. CBS Sports, Barnes and Bouknight. NBC Sports, Barnes and Johnson. Then Yahoo Sports with Barnes, Keon Johnson. And then last but not least, NBA Draft.net, Kuminga and Johnson. Based on the different mock drafts that we found, what would be your ideal scenario? Which one? And you know what? I'll take that back. Not your ideal scenario. Which one do you see as more realistic?
So I'm going to hit you with the one that it's not realistic at all in my mind, which probably is what the Magic will do, just because that's the way they do things.
That's the way they operate.
Sports Illustrated, Barnes and Keon Johnson. Like, if that's your draft, I get it. Ton of athleticism, solid defense, length.
Okay.
Man, like those guys are Magic players, just based on length and athleticism. But man, I would be pissed, just because you're bringing in 2 guys that can defend, that can jump really high and run fast, but cannot shoot or score at all. So let me start with that. Now, my favorite scenario, or the most realistic one, oh man, and this list is tough because everything's Barnes.
Literally everything is Barnes. The Athletic, Sports Illustrated, Bleacher Report, Ringer, CBS, NBC, Yahoo Sports. Every single one of these mock drafts has the Orlando Magic selecting Scotty Barnes.
Which tells me that's not going to happen, because again, the Magic don't leak anything, so they're just guessing at this point. I'm going to guess. But if I had to guess, I'm going to go with Kuminga and Johnson. NBA Draft.net, that may be the most realistic one. Kuminga can score a little bit, like we talked about before. Fits that potential all-star thing that we need in our team. And then Johnson's a guy that I could see the Magic reaching for with the 8th if they get an offensive guy like Kuminga with the 5th. So I think the most realistic one out of this list would be Kuminga and Johnson, even though, again, if you have Moody on the board and you have Bouknight on the board, those will be my guys first.
I know a lot of people were even talking about, man, if you have the 5th pick, and so you really have to decide, because Bouknight is a player that has been climbing in the draft boards. Some people think he's falling. Nobody is on the same page. But there's speculation that he won't be available at 8. What I hope that the Magic end up doing is I'm at the point where I'm open. Right? I'm not setting no expectations. I did that for the lottery. It hasn't worked out. The last 5 years when it came to the NBA draft, the Orlando Magic front office and Anthony have not been on the same page. We've been on completely opposite ends. All right. I just hope that if there's a player that they like at 5, if there's a player that they like at 8, regardless of what these mock drafts are saying, regardless if they feel like Bouknight should be 11 and 12, regardless of if the Ringer is saying that Moses Moody should be number 21, like regardless of what any of these mock drafts say, if the Magic feel so confident with the player that they like, I hope they go after him at 5. That's all I ask. I ask that they are 100% confident with their pick at 5. So when I say that if they decide that they want to get Moses Moody at 5, I'm a-okay with that. If they want to get Bouknight at 5, I am a-okay with that. I endorse it, just because I'm not fully sold on Jonathan Kuminga. I like Jonathan Kuminga. I hope we get him at 5, but I'm not 100% sold on him. I'm not sold on Scotty Barnes. Matter of fact, I would prefer, and this is crazy because when we did the reaction video on Scotty Barnes, I was sold on Scotty.
Yep.
A couple weeks later, I'm starting to fall off the wagon a little bit, and I would prefer, if you don't get Jonathan Kuminga and everyone's talking about Scotty Barnes, I wouldn't mind the Magic, drafting James Bouknight or Moses Moody at 5 over Scotty. But that's me.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate it if they reach for a guy like Bouknight at 5. Again, he's a type of player that we need. And we've heard it multiple times. He may be the second best shooting guard in the draft. So yeah, we all wanted Jalen Green. That was a guy that we're still drooling for here in Orlando. We're like hoping some miracle happens between now and next Thursday and that we end up getting him. But if you don't, and you see that Bouknight has that type of talent, he has that skill or that ceiling at the very least. He may not reach it right away, but he has a ceiling to be a guy like Mitchell from Utah or something like that. That you say, hey, he's got that potential. Get him at 5. I wouldn't hate it. And again, as a Magic fan, I would actually, like you said, I would appreciate it, because again, that's what we need. We're drafting for need at that point if we do that. So we'll see. It's going to be exciting, and I think again, nobody knows what's going to happen. I'm like you. I'm taking it as I'm not planning anything. I'm not expecting anything. I'm showing up to Magic drafts party next week, and whatever happens, happens. I'm trusting the front office. We have no choice.
Yeah, I got to go into it with an open mind, because when you set expectations, that's where the beginning of heartache and heartbreak happens.
That's
so
right.
Open mind. Now let's get into some of the mailbags. So this question comes from Joshua Richard 19 _ where he asks, if Suggs and Mobley drop to 5, who are you taking? Now, in order for this to happen, obviously someone out of the top 5 would have to fall into that top 5. So a player like Scotty Barnes. If Suggs and Mobley drop to 5, who would you select between the two of them?
So this would mean that maybe Cleveland drafted Kuminga really high at 3 and Barnes went to Toronto or something like that. Okay.
Yep.
So in this scenario, man, it's tough because I'll make it easy for myself. I'll draft Jalen Suggs just because, again, based on what we talked about earlier, we got already big guys. We have forwards, we have centers that I like, that I think have potential in our team. Suggs could be a guy that can play right away. Playmaker with Cole Anthony until Markelle comes back. When Markelle comes back, he's a guy that can play the 2. And again, he's a killer, man. Like you saw what he did in his college days. He's an amazing, amazing player. So I would personally take Suggs. How about you?
I would take a shot on Mobley, The Magic have, if you take a look at all the success that the Magic have had, they've always been able to be successful with a big man. Dwight Howard, Shaquille O'Neal, Nikola Vucevic. We've always managed to somehow get a top 5 center in the league. It's just kind of how it's happened for us. We take a look at what we have. Is Mo Bamba top 5 center in the league? Is Wendell Carter Jr.? Maybe, given the opportunity. Now we're putting together a coaching staff that's all about development, and maybe we might have that. But you have a player in Evan Mobley that for a fact has the skills to be able to do that, to have that. And I think that it'd be really, really hard to pass up on Evan Mobley, who's projected to be a top 3 pick. If Evan Mobley falls, then there's no way that you can say no to that. And as much as I like Jalen Suggs, I'm not going to say that I'm more of a bigger fan of the guards that we have, but I'm invested. I'm definitely rooting for them more. I'm rooting for the success of Cole Anthony, RJ Hampton, Markelle Fultz, and I don't want anything to hurt that development. But again, at the same time, you have to draft best player available. And I think that if it's between Suggs and Mobley, I think Mobley is that best player available.
Yeah, makes sense. I wouldn't hate it. I'm actually at the point that if we do trade up to 3, let's say, and Mobley's the one that's there because Jalen Green went to Houston in this scenario, I would be okay with Mobley. So it's funny how I would be okay with us trading up and getting Mobley, but if he drops, I would choose Suggs. I'm weird like that.
Yeah, I'm also okay with us just trading up and for the second pick in the draft and just drafting Jalen Green. I'm 100% okay with that. All right, so this next one comes from Ben, the Magic fan. He asks, is there a possibility we could go back into the playoffs this year?
I wouldn't think the playoffs. I would go as far as maybe the play-in tournament. Again, if everything clicks for us, I can see that happening. The Magic played really, really well last season when the team was healthy, even after the trades. And mind you, again, we didn't have J.I. Markelle. So when you think about this season, yes, we're possibly adding a rookie or 2 or 3. Who knows? But we're also adding 2 young guys to our team that didn't play last year, Markelle Fultz and J.I. And on top of that, there'll be some free agent moves. And then on top of that, guys like Terrence Ross and Gary Harris, if they're on the roster as veterans of the team, are guys that can contribute and play really well for our team with these young guys. So if everything clicks for us and goes well, I can see us playing at least in the play-in tournament. I don't think the playoffs, I don't see us being a top 6 seed, but 7, 8, 9, 10, I can see that happening.
Yeah, playoffs is hard, man. It's hard for me to see it. The East is also getting better. I get that we have young, talented players, but it's a brand new coaching system. It's a brand new coaches, brand new system. Adding rookies to that, that's all stuff that takes time for it to kind of come together. I would love to see a play-in tournament. I would love to see a playoffs, but play-in tournament I think would be best case scenario with the roster that we have. And if you haven't check out OrlandoMagicHQ.com. Kieran comes out, one of our writers, with an article discussing exactly this topic. I think that could it happen? Yes. Is it likely? Probably not. Am I rooting for it? 100%. I'm really, really tired of us kind of, it's the lottery, man. We get heartbroken in the lottery. We get heartbroken in the draft. There's a lot of heartbreak. I want to get to the point that our players are developed, get to the point that, we're playing well and we're really honing in on the core that we have, and we don't have to worry about, the lottery as much, and whatever's added is just an added bonus. Right now, the way that we're looking at the draft is, man, we really need this to work out. Like it has to work out. And I think that, we're a lot closer than what people think, but I just don't think that we're there yet.
I think so too.
Yeah. All right. So now we're gonna put it in some cement. All right. This is the last episode before the NBA draft. So we're gonna finalize our predictions. All right. Al, you ready?
I've been waiting for this since we started recording. Let's do this.
Do the Orlando Magic make a trade on or before the draft? The Magic hold on to the 5th, the 8th, and the 33rd pick. If the Magic end up drafting 3 players from this draft, that's 3 brand new rookies that you're adding to an already very, very young team. Do the Magic end up making a trade before the draft?
This is actually a bet that I'm hoping they play somewhere in one of these betting websites, because I would bet on this all day long, and that would be a yes. The Magic will make a trade. I'm truly hoping it's a major trade, and that means either we trade it up to get a guy like Jalen Green, or we trade it for a guy, a vet that we are not even hearing about, a guy that can score off the bench, whatever it may be. So that's my my hoping scenario. Let's get Jalen Green or a vet that we don't know anything about right now. But I could see a trade where we just trade the 8th pick or the 33rd, along with a guy like Terrence Ross or Gary Harris. Somebody mentioned a rumor about the Magic maybe getting Buddy Hield in some sort of scenarios, which I don't want that. But again, there's rumblings out there, and I 100% don't think the Magic will bring in 3 rookies next season. So I expect the trade for sure to happen before or at the draft.
Yeah, I see something happening. Will it be major? Maybe yes, maybe no. Josh Robinson had an amazing article where he put together some NBA trade packages to try to get the Orlando Magic to move up 1, 2, and 3, and then asked writers from those respective teams if they would do the deal. And it really just turned out to, us just getting turned down left and right. Yeah, it's very difficult to see these teams really trading out of the top 3. So I see us trading. If we do make a trade, will it be for a young player? Maybe. Could it be for trading back down? Possibly also.
But in this scenario, you're thinking for sure we'll make a trade, though. That's your take on it.
Yeah, I can't see us really adding 3 rookies to this team. I can't.
Me neither.
That it's truthfully, in my opinion, it would even be like unfair to the young players that we have on our roster already.
I think so too.
All right, if the Magic trade up, who will they draft?
It's between Mobley or Jalen Green for me. Again, Mobley's a guy that, in my opinion, fits what the Magic look for in a big guy. Athletic, length, athleticism, plays good defense. And he's actually pretty solid on the offensive end as well. So I could see them being entertained by that idea. And of course, Jalen Green, I think, is the ideal guy. I think that's the guy they had circled down along with Cade when they went on a losing streak and they wanted to tank. It's because they wanted one of those 2 guys, either Green or Cade. So I think if they can get Green or Mobley, they'll be really happy. Those are my assumptions. Those are the guys that they will draft if they trade up.
I'm gonna put my prediction out there. It's probably a wild prediction. I'm probably completely off, but I see Jalen Green going number 1.
There's a lot of rumors on that.
I see it. I don't know why. It could be completely off, but I have that feeling. The way that I always saw it is if we drafted Jalen Green, if we were able to get the 2nd lottery pick, that getting Jalen Green would be just as good as getting Cade Cunningham.
I think so too.
All right. So if one of the top 4 projected players drop for the Magic to draft at 5, who will it be?
Man, I could be. That's an easy one. I think Jalen Suggs is the only guy that I can see possibly dropping. There's rumors of the Raptors showing interest in drafting Barnes with the 4th pick. We've heard about Kuminga going to Cleveland, maybe. So Suggs, I think, maybe the odd man out in that scenario where he may drop to the Magic at 5, and I wouldn't hate it if that happens.
I think if we take a look at the top 4, a player that I believe could possibly drop would be Evan Mobley. But again, it's hard to say because when we take a look at the top 4, outside of Cade and Jalen Green, Cleveland, if they decide to stick with Colin Sexton, it makes sense for them to draft Evan Mobley. And then for Toronto, we really don't know what they're going to end up doing with Kyle Lowry. There's a lot of predictions that he's not going to be in a Raptors uniform next season. It would make sense for them to draft a replacement in Jalen Suggs. But if I had to choose one, just my guess would be Evan Mobley.
I mean, that would mean that then Cleveland, Toronto, like pass on them. Which again, you make a good point. I can see that world happening where that happens. But I mean, that would make a ton of Magic fans happy, and the Magic themselves really happy if that were to happen.
Yeah, I think that it really does depend, because there was a lot of talks with Cleveland really liking Jonathan Kuminga. So if Cleveland decided to draft Jonathan Kuminga at 3, that would be wild. If something crazy in Toronto decided to draft Scotty Barnes, that would be wild. I think that I have a feeling that there's going to be something that happens that's going to end up surprising a lot of people, whether that be a players falling in the draft, whether that be a massive trade happening. I do hope for, and I believe that there's going to be some type of chaos. What is it? I don't know. I'm hoping. How crazy would it be if Cleveland drafted Jonathan Kuminga? Just
not crazy at all.
Mess up the whole entire top 5.
Not crazy at all.
I just envision just everyone's in their war rooms and everyone's expected Cade, Jalen, Evan to go to Cleveland, and then Cleveland is up, and then they end up just saying, "Oh, we're gonna wing it, just Jonathan Kuminga." And now everyone is like scrambling, papers flying in the air. Everyone's trying to do damage control to figure out what they end up doing.
Dude, that would be insane. That would throw the Raptors will go crazy because now all of a sudden their plan changes. All of a sudden, their Magic will go crazy. Okay, see, so it creates chaos, and that's I think what Matt Lloyd meant. It's like it could be a draft pick or it could be a trade that just throws off the entire draft. It's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be really, really exciting.
All right. So who will the Magic put in cement right now? Who will the Magic draft with the 5th pick?
If things go as planned, I'm gonna go with Kuminga. I think the Magic, it's too good of a chance to pass up. Like I said earlier, a guy that was projected to be the number 1 pick in his draft class, a guy that has a bit more offensive firepower than a guy like Barnes. It's too many what ifs with Barnes at this moment. So you play it safe with that 5th pick. You go with Kuminga.
Who do I want? Definitely Jonathan Kuminga. Who do I think? Scotty Barnes. Yeah, he's an Orlando Magic player, 7'3" wingspan, versatile, can play 1 through 5, energetic, good character. He's everything that the Orlando Magic like to draft. Last year we were kind of shocked that we ended up drafting Cole Anthony, and that was kind of out of the realm. What are the chances of them doing that again? So Jonathan Kuminga would be my pick. James Bouknight, if they drafted James at 5, I would not be mad. Moses Moody would not be mad, because we do need offense. We do need shooting, and that would definitely be, in my opinion, something to be excited about for sure. Who will the Magic draft 8?
8. If they make that pick,
I know your response.
I mean, you do, but then you don't. Because what if Moody's not there or Bouknight's not there? So it kind of throws things off, right?
That's exactly what I meant by I know, because the first player that you mentioned is Moses Moody.
So if things go as planned, I'm gonna go with the fact that hey, things just went down like we thought they would in the draft. Nothing changed, and they're there, Moody or Bouknight. I can't decide which one, honestly. I think it's a toss-up at this moment. Moody's more of a short thing, more of a role player, a guy that next season's going to hit threes and play good defense. You know that for sure. Bouknight's a kid, however, much like Cole Anthony, I keep comparing the two a lot, that can have a solid rookie season, can score the ball really well, and down the road could be the better player. So whoever they go with, I would trust, but I think it would come down to Moody or Bouknight if they're available at number 8.
Yeah, I'm hoping that if the Magic end up drafting whoever it is that they want at 5, that Bouknight is still available at 8 for them to draft. I like Moses Moody a lot also, but I think that James Bouknight is just he's a walking bucket. He's someone that you are able to implement right away and can really, really score the ball, create his own shot, athletic. I think that Moses Moody, he's more of a catch and shoot type of player, in my opinion. So I don't think you can go wrong with either or, but I do think that James Bouknight would definitely kind of fit the Orlando Magic more, in my opinion. You even see Cole Anthony that's a big fan of James Bouknight. I think that if you give him a vote, that he's kind of leaning towards that direction also.
Oh, I think so too. And I mean, if you walk out of Amway that night saying, "Hey, we picked up Kuminga and Bouknight," I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
Yeah,
it's two guys that have potential. Not only, again, Kuminga has it on both ends of the floor, but offensively, you made the right moves. And again, that's what we need. So if that's the way that we end the draft with those two guys, I would be thrilled. And now, again, missing out on the top 2 pick, but getting 2 solid rookies, it's a win.
100%. So less than a week away from the NBA draft, so many different things that can happen. We dropped our predictions. Definitely make sure that if you're on YouTube or you're sending us messages and comments, you send us your prediction also. Man, it's gonna be wild, man. We'll definitely be out in downtown for the NBA draft party at the Amway, and it's gonna be fun, man. Let's see what ends up happening. Al, it's a wrap, man. Till next time.
Thank you for listening to the OZone Podcast, the voice of Magic fans. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the OZone Pod. And remember to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on all your favorite podcast listening platforms.